The sweetest sounds I'll ever hear are still inside my head.
Ed Robertson, welcoming you to TV Confidential, radio talk show about television. Robert Hooks will join us in our second hour. Robert Hooks, founder or co-founder of three of the most significant African-American theater companies in the United States, and the first African-American actor to have a starring role in a network TV drama, which Robert did when he played Detective Jeff Ward on the groundbreaking 1967 police drama NYPD. We will ask Robert Hooks about NYPD, plus we'll talk about some of his other notable film and TV roles when he joins us in our second hour. We hope you'll stay tuned for that. Joining us later on in this hour will be our friend Josh Mills. Josh Mills, director of the estates of Edie Adams and Ernie Kovacs. Josh recently teamed up with the National Comedy Center for a big exhibit coming up this summer that will help celebrate the centennial year of the birth of Ernie Kovacs. We'll tell you all about that and more later on in this hour. In the meantime, Phil Gries is with us as we continue our look at the short-lived but critically acclaimed daytime talk show that Merv Griffin hosted for NBC television between October 1962 and March 1963 as part of the Sounds of Lost Television. Phil Gries, founder and owner of Archival Television Audio, the largest vintage TV soundtrack archive in the world, and a collection that includes approximately 30 of the 125 episodes of the Merv Griffin daytime show that are otherwise not available anywhere else. For more information, tvaudio.com. Joining Phil for this segment is Steve Randisi. Steve's book, The Merv Griffin Show, The Inside Story, is a complete history of the Merv Griffin Show on television. The Merv Griffin Show, The Inside Story, is available through Bear Manor Media. One of the things I like about Merv Griffin, The Inside Story, Steve, is that you don't fawn on Merv. You show all facets of him, but you do show the times when, Merv screwed up. And again, it's refreshing. It is a well-rounded portrait of the icon.
I tried to present a balanced picture.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do, the painted, that he was a saint, because none of us is perfect. He was a human being. But I do think, he was a genius at the same time, a very, very brilliant man and a very astute businessman, and he certainly made his contribution to the American entertainment scene. There's no question about that, and he's a legend in the talk show realm.
And in fairness, occasional faux pas aside, Merv worked arguably harder than any other contemporary of his, and among other things, he was one of the few hosts that actually read the book versus relying just on note cards.
His talent coordinator, Don Kane, who has since passed away, unfortunately, since the book was published, he passed away before the book was published, told me that every aspect of that show during the time he was with it was overseen by Merv Griffin. And if somebody didn't do their job right, believe me, they heard about it. And that's the way it should be. You don't get to the top, by being, you have to be tough.
Yeah.
Otherwise, And but he was a very, very humane guy, and he was accessible to his employees. I mean, they've all pointed out to me that they could talk to him at any time. And it's true, you're right, he did research, he did prepare thoroughly, and he did read all the guests' books. And, he was very prepared, and he could actually wing an interview by just glancing at the notes and not really relying heavily on the notes the way Joey Bishop or Mike Douglas or some of or some of the other fellows.
And he could do that because he had done his homework.
Yes, exactly. And not only that, I think he was intuitive. I mean, he really knew people, and he had a keen interest in people. And I think that got through the camera lens and into the audience, and it shows.
We mentioned that Merv got guests from all walks of entertainment, including Broadway, and that was one of the advantages of being based in New York, as he was when he did the daytime show for NBC. This next clip that Phil has prepared for us is from the February 18th, 1963 edition featuring Charlton Heston and Diahann Carroll. Diahann Carroll at the time was appearing in the Broadway musical No Strings.
Really, just a little note with Diahann Carroll. Most people remember her from Julia and so many other breakthrough television appearances. And very few people know that that she actually started her career in the early 50s on television. She appeared on the Tonight program with Jack LaScoulie 9 years before that Merv Griffin Show. So she was a consummate television performer, and I'm grateful that for whatever the reason, I don't think I recorded that because of her. I think I recorded that because of Moses. But she's there, and I'm now, in retrospect, grateful that I have that clip because, it's another one of those lost moments.
Heston joked, anybody who's not watching this in color is missing something. Did you have a color set or a black and white?
My first color set was in 1980.
Okay, that answers my
really?
question.
I had watched all my television. I recorded all of the programs.
Is this the one where she talks about the color of her dress? She mentions that it's an unusual color, and Merv asked her what the... And right. I won't give it away, but I think I know what it is.
Well, whether in monochrome or in full living color, Diahann Carroll is fabulous, no matter what she wears, no matter how she's photographed.
Second Broadway show, Diahann Carroll has achieved star billing, and that means when your name goes up above the title of the show. She's talented, beautiful. She's the exciting star of No Strings, and this is her first appearance with us. Would you all welcome Miss Diahann Carroll? What a pretty dress.
Thank you. I got up this morning, I saw the sunshine, and I couldn't resist the flowers.
Yes, it's lovely.
We were doubting whether it would do for color television. I reassured her
I
it
would
would
say
go
we'll
fine.
sell a few sets today.
Yes? I was afraid it would bleed, but...
Anyone that's not looking at this show in color television is missing something.
Yes, your red beard.
Yeah.
You look just marvelous in color television.
See that?
That was my line. Remember, we rehearsed it out in the hall.
You ought to make a color movie sometime.
Yeah.
I understand they're making quite a few of them these days.
Congratulations on all your success, Diane.
Thank you very much.
The show's still fun to do, even after this long time?
Yes, it is fun to do. Of course, there are nights when it's much more fun than others.
Yes.
It is difficult to maintain a kind of real, fresh interest every night. But working at it, on the other hand, is terribly intriguing. When you make it work, you're very proud of yourself.
Diahann Carroll and Charlton Heston appearing on the February 18th, 1963 edition of the daytime talk show that Merv Griffin hosted for NBC between October 62 and March 63. Audio courtesy ATVaudio.com. Steve Randisi is also with us. Steve is the author of Merv Griffin, The Inside Story, everything you want to know about the NBC daytime show hosted by Merv Griffin, as well as the Metro Media show, the CBS show, and the Westinghouse show. I don't remember whether it was Heston who were in this clip we just heard. Steve, Heston alluded to the fact that the daytime show was done in color. One of the things that Merv, maybe it wasn't a step back, but when he went to Westinghouse, the first year was still done in black and white, and he was a little reluctant to do that.
It was the first 2 years at Westinghouse were in black and white. They didn't go to color until August of 1967. He premiered on Westinghouse in May of 65, and they went to color for the fall season in 67 because shows that were not on a network and were not on in prime time were still being recorded in black and white. Mm-hmm. Dark Shadows, for example, was an ABC network show in 1967, and it was still on in black and white. It was still being telecast in black and white. So, yes, it was a step back because NBC was a trailblazer. They were a pioneer in color television. So the Merv Griffin shows on NBC were all were broadcast in color. But when he went back to syndication, they were in monochrome, and they didn't go to color until the fall of 67, and they kind of played that up big. I mean, they did commercials, and of course that involved changing the set and changing all the graphics and all the slides. And Merv began wearing more colorful. Instead of wearing a white shirt, now he would wear a blue shirt or a green shirt or a yellow shirt. And shows at that time were they got higher ratings when they were broadcast in color. So it was something of a step backward to go from an unusual step to go from black and white. To go from color to black and white, and then vice versa. But it's interesting that the Joey Bishop show, not the talk show, the Joey Bishop sitcom, did the same thing because he was originally on NBC, and then he went to CBS. So it went from color to black and white, and then back to color again. So they kind of, bounce around a little bit.
Well, you have to weigh one with the other, and obviously, the chance to have his own show, and as we alluded to earlier, it turned out to be a good move for him because at one point he had more affiliates than he had. He certainly had more affiliates on Westinghouse than he ended up having on CBS. And so even though he was in black and white, he was still getting a very good reach.
Absolutely, yeah, and it was a very good show. 90 minutes of all these wonderful people, and some of them are good enough that should be shown in schools. I mean, they're so telling. Yeah. Of the era of the time, but this is also true of a lot of other shows too. I mean, Mike Douglas, and also the Tonight shows of that period, and that's why talk shows I think are so important and should be preserved because they speak volumes of the times.
Well, at least we have Phil Gries, who's preserving some of the talk shows of that era. Phil Gries, of course,
Thank God he did. Yeah, so.
Founder and owner of archival television audio, ATV Audio.com. Another Merv Griffin moment that Phil has prepared for us originally aired on March 7th, 1963. That would be the appearance of Joan Crawford. This is a year removed from whatever happened to Baby Jane, if I have my timeline correct. And in this clip that we're about to hear, Merv is asking Joan about her memoir, A Portrait of Joan.
And is Merv surrounded today? Miss Joan Crawford to my right, Mrs. Adela Rodgers St. John's to my left. Your book, A Portrait of Joan, came out in 1962. I remember the reviews. I think in some circles you were criticized, Miss Crawford, for softening the truth in your book. Did you tell the whole truth in here and nothing but?
Oh, so help me God. It doesn't mean that I didn't soften it. I was criticized, Merv, because a lot of people thought I should have been more vicious. I think you can sell a book without being vicious. And also, I don't feel vicious.
Good.
About anybody. I think everyone who has come into my life or who has crossed my path or vice versa, I'm so grateful for the experience. And I'm not a Pollyanna. I can be quite the reverse at times. But I'm so grateful for that experience, whether it be good or bad. At the time, I may not like it. But if I grow with it and grow into and out of that experience, then I have gained something. So why be bitter?
Right. Have you read Hedda Hopper's new book yet?
Yes, I have.
I want to quote her. She calls you the high priestess at the shrine of success, which is quite complimentary. She also goes on to tell a very amusing story about the two of you on a trip to Omaha. She said the first thing you did when you checked into the hotel...
She just wanted to borrow the hats.
was you called for an ironing board and an iron.
I do all my own pressing, all my own washing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Then she said you proceeded to press every dress you had there.
Sure. I never knew which one I was going to wear.
For 2 days?
Mm-hmm. Everything had to be ready.
She said that you then proceeded to go in and scrub the bathroom floor. Why, Miss Crawford?
I wanted it clean.
Joan Crawford on the March 7th, 1963 broadcast of the Merv Griffin Daytime Show that originally aired on NBC between October 1st, 62, March 29th, 1963. Audio courtesy Phil Gries, ATVaudio.com. Steve, Merv seems genuinely surprised that a star of Joan Crawford's stature was down to earth enough to do her own housework.
Well, that was known about Crawford. She had this OCD, this obsessive-compulsive disorder about cleanliness. And so that was widely known, and he kind of tapped into it. There's another funny moment in that interview. It wasn't in the clip that you just played, where Merv asked Joan if she ever had any romantic feelings towards any of her leading men, and she kind of skirted the issue and was like, no, not really. And Adela Rodgers, St. John's, who was on the panel that day, she said, now, Joan, come on. You married two of them. How could you say you didn't have any romantic feelings towards your leading men? Because she married Franco Tone, she married Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Actually, the reverse. She married Doug Jr. first and then Franco Tone. That was a funny segment. Later on, one of Merv's people, Don King, told me that Crawford was on the CBS show, and she slipped and fell backstage, and they were worried that she may have been injured. But she was so much of a trooper that she got up, went out there, and did the show like nothing happened. So that was Joan Crawford. So she was Johnny Carson's first guest on the first Carson Tonight show in 1962.
A similar subject was discussed at that time, too, with regard to Carson taking the same amazing reaction to the fact that Joan Crawford, lived so humbly and close.
I met her at a book signing when she published another book she had done called My Way of Life. She came to one of our local bookstores, and she was very easy to talk to. She was very approachable, and she really enjoyed being a movie star. She was a star, no question about it.
And the point I was attempting to make about Merv is that, okay, even if he knew that that's who she was, because the audience connects to the guest through the host, Merv asked it in such a way to sort of anticipate that his viewers may not know about that. And so Merv kind of brought it up like, I didn't know that. And so that connects the viewers to Crawford, and it was one of the other ways, many ways, that connected Merv to the viewers.
Well, that was Merv's charm. Of course he knew about it, and he would play off of that, and that would encourage the guest, in this case, Joan Crawford, to respond in a way that she wouldn't if he said, I certainly knew about this particular habit of yours in terms of cleanliness. That was an asset. That was an asset of Merv Griffin. He knew how to play to his guests, and he knew what questions to ask and what questions not to ask, and he knew when to shut up as well. That was a rare talent.
Well, that's why he was so good at what he did, and that's why we're talking about him, 30, 40, 50 years later. And
yes. A loud actor, but a great talk show host.
One of the great talk show hosts, and I just wanted people to remember that, like I said earlier at the outset, that while Johnny Carson is great and he's the king of late night, I wanted people to be aware and remember the fact that there was this other king of conversation, and that was Merv.
And that was Merv. Merv is the subject of the Merv Griffin Show, The Inside Story, the excellent new book by our guest Steve Randisi. The Merv Griffin Show, The Inside Story, available through BearManorMedia.com, Amazon.com, wherever books are sold online. Also with us is Phil Gries. Phil Gries, founder and owner, Archival Television Audio, ATVaudio.com. This next clip, Merv is interviewing actor Robert Taylor, who I believe was either starring in The Detectives or had just finished his run on The Detectives. Robert Taylor on the Merv Griffin NBC daytime show, February 20th, 1963.
I'm curious about your farm. As a farmer myself, what time do you get up in the morning?
Oh, when I'm working on either television or a paper.
No, I mean for farm, sure.
For farming,
for farmers.
On the farm, around 5:30, 6 o'clock at the latest.
Oh, I'm not so curious anymore.
Well, that's usually to make coffee. I start then.
Does he really do all this, Miss Taylor?
Yes, he does.
Now, come on, tell the truth.
Yes, he does.
What kind of chores does he do around the farm?
Well, I was thinking in terms of coffee chores.
In other words, he gets up and makes the coffee.
Early. Yes, he does.
And do you rise at 5 too? Mr.
No, I rise at 6:30.
And take the coffee off the burner.
He says, and take the coffee off the burner.
Yes.
Do you take care of your horses yourself?
No, I have a man who... we have 13 horses on the place at the moment, and with the 4 new entries that will be coming up shortly, it's more than one person could handle, certainly.
Well, now, do you attempt to break the horses yourself?
No.
Do you do all this?
No. Well, we hold or break them, but that's about as far as it goes. We try, hopefully, to sell them before we have to get into any serious...
Oh, you're really in the business?
Yes.
Gee, do you ever think of sponsoring a television show?
No.
Well, I mean, I could do a great commercial for a quarter horse for you.
Robert Taylor talking about getting up early and making coffee and working on his farm from the February 20th, 1963 edition of the NBC daytime talk show that Merv Griffin hosted between October 1962 and March 1963. Phil Gries will be back along with Steve Randisi later on this month as we continue our look at this overlooked chapter of Merv's talk show hosting career as part of the Sounds of Lost Television. In the meantime, we'll take a quick time out. Then Josh Mills will join us when we come back on TV Confidential. Got a product or service that you want our listeners to know about? Become an advertiser or underwriter of TV Confidential and let our brand help promote your brand. For more information, go to televisionconfidential.com/advertise or visit the TV Confidential page at advertisecast.com. Ed Robertson along with Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen from Story Salon, Southern California's longest-running, regularly performing live storytelling ensemble, which I understand is in a new location.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. We're moving actually to the Party Art Studio on Laurel Canyon Boulevard, 5302 Laurel Canyon. It's a new art gallery, and it's
beautiful.
It's beautiful. Donna and I have been involved with Story Salon for the last 9+ years. We're going to be in an art gallery now. We're going to have a $5 cover, some nice refreshments, and a wonderful eclectic evening of storytelling.
Which is a great environment because, it as you say, the word is eclectic, and for $5, it's a great evening of entertainment. You can't ask for much more.
No, not at all. And these stories, some of them are funny, some of them are tragic, some of them are a little off the wall, but we just have a wonderful time keeping the art of storytelling alive.
And you can find out more about it by going to storysalon.com.
Accredited by Guinness World Records, welcome to Archival Television Audio Incorporated, a peerless TV soundtrack archive, preserving the audio from television's first 3 decades, the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the golden and silver age of television.
For more information, go to atvaudio.com.
We're Biffle and Schuster. How do you do? That's right, folks. We're Biffle and Schuster. We want to tell you about this amazing misadventures of Biffle and Schuster. It's a DVD from Pino Lover, and you're going to love it.
We're Biffle and Schuster. It's terrific.
Yeah, you know what Joe Dante says about them?
What did he say?
He says, forehead slapping funny. What impresses is the dogged authenticity to the era, which makes it all the more hilarious.
Absolutely. Accent on the high.
We're
Biffle and Schuster, as you can see. No one else can make that statement louder than we. They say we're soporific, and it's probably we. Because we're Biffle and Schuster. Oh, we're Biffle and Schuster. No, we're Biffle and Schuster.
B-I-F-F-L, Biffle. S-H-W-S to Schuster.
Biffle and Schuster. Need we say more?
Available wherever DVDs are sold through our friends at Kino Lorber.
All right, you loafers, get back to work. What am I paying you for? Why is he yelling at his shoes?
You can listen to this show all over again as a podcast on TuneIn, iTunes, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and other podcast platforms. Best of all, it's free. To find out how to subscribe to the TV Confidential podcast, go to the homepage at televisionconfidential.com and click subscribe now.